daily 10 minutes inspiration of positivity bias. It's great to have you all over here. So, SD is on a plane back to visit her family in Milwaukee. So, that gives me an opportunity for a few minutes to be able to share with you today's thoughts. It's about limud zchut, about seeing the positivity in others, always judging someone for the better, which is something that's very critical for our time because we live in a time where we're sitting in at home and many of us are sitting and watching the news, and therefore when we're watching the news all day, we might start thinking negative about all sorts of people, all sorts of situations, and really there's so many good things to look at everybody. So I'm going to share I'm going to share with you some stories. For those who are on YouTube Live, welcome. Share with you some stories to give you some sort of inspiration of how to navigate people who make you nervous and you wish you can get along with, but somehow having a hard time. Hi, Alec, I see you there. Welcome. So I'm going to share with you maybe like 4 or 5 stories from the Rebbe. It's a leader of the Chabad movement who inspired me and thousands of others to do what we do every single day and be able to look at people with a very positive eye. It's not always something easy to do. It's not our natural way always to be able to just say, hey, you're a great person, when maybe the person, did something wrong to you in one way or another. So when the Rebbe became a Rebbe, when he took over the leadership of the Chabad movement in 1950, one of the main, if not the main thing that he was very, very strong about was to have a deep belief in people who maybe for some reason you don't think it's that important to have a deep belief in them. So I'll just share with you different stories. One time a person wrote to the Rebbe that he was traveling somewhere in a remote place, and there was this guy who came to shul, came to services, and he came with a newspaper. He didn't sit and pray. Instead of praying, all he did was just take the paper out and he read the paper, which is something not respectful. Now, honestly, as a college rabbi, I can't say I've seen people read the paper, but I have tourists or visitors who come to me and they're always sometimes, Rabbi, how do you let the students do this? How do you let the students do that? And it's interesting, when I saw this story, it sort of inspired me to realize that you should never, ever be judging. Ever. You should always look at the fact of the positive way that. So let me share with you the story. So this guy wrote a letter to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said back to him that, look, this Jew lives in a remote place. She's disconnected from Judaism, clearly. There's barely any Jews who live where he lives. And he's coming to services. Why? To help another Jew who needs probably to say, another Jew who probably needs to say Kaddish, another Jew who, needs a minyan. And so he's actually doing something for somebody else. So it wouldn't be right for you to judge him. The fact that he's even showing up should be the most amazing thing as far as you're concerned. So it's, again, you can always look at it, oh, he came with a newspaper. On the other hand, you can look at it, but he came. And that's the key. Another great story, I thought I'm going to share a bunch of stories with you. There's a rabbi, his name is Shua Moshe Starkhamer. So he, wrote to the Rebbe speaking to the Rebbe and saying, you're encouraging people to come to Chabad houses and on Yom Kippur, and they're eating. And they're not fasting, and who knows if they even ate. Well, they ate maybe not even kosher, and he goes through the whole list of things that potentially somebody is doing to not observe Yom Kippur. And the Rebbe tells him, so he's like, what's your opinion on that? And the Rebbe says, look, all I can focus on, or all we should focus on, is the 15, 20, 30 minutes that the person's in services. Because during that short period of time, we're giving the person the opportunity to actually celebrate Yom Kippur. So again, what are you going to focus on, the 24 hours, or are you going to focus on the 15 minutes? It's exactly the same thing. Actually, there's a great story I heard recently from the Chabad rabbi's wife in Venice, that when she came to synagogue in Yom Kippur in the evening. So she came, by the end, by Ne'ilah, towards the end, and there was somebody that she didn't know who was in the Chabad house, who was on the computer because it's a hot spot for Israelis or backpackers to go to the Chabad house, and clearly it's Yom Kippur, and somebody should not be at the Chabad house with on a laptop, and so she, instead of telling her, "Oh my God, what are you doing here?" she came up to her and said, "Hey, what are you doing? Maybe you want to join me." And before long, the girl, the girl realized that it's Yom Kippur, and she felt so guilty. She was an Israeli, and she was like, "How on earth could I have forgotten that it's Yom Kippur?" And instead of making her feel guilty, she tells this young girl, she says, me and you met at the perfect moment, and this is the perfect opportunity for you to be able to be part of a Jewish community. So, and this woman was so taken, this young girl was so taken aback that instead of somebody being all negative, "Oh my God, it's Yom Kippur, what are you doing?" No, this is the perfect opportunity for you to come. I know as a rabbi on a college campus, it's so common for tens of students to show up right at the end of Yom Kippur. And it's this kind of attitude that gives me the love and the ability to be able to look at them with a positive eye. I mean, that's ultimately the fact they're showing up. They're showing up because they fasted enough. They fasted, so they care enough to show up for a bagel and lox. You know what? You fasted, and that's perfect. There was also a great story. I told them I'm going to keep saying stories today. There was an Israeli comedian, Shimon Zigan, and he was not loved by the religious world. He used his comedy to make a lot of fun of the religious world in Israel. He wasn't the most loved person, but he was funny. So after he passed away, so the Shabbat after, the Rebbe was speaking, in front of thousands of followers, as you speak every week, and he quoted a Talmud that says that two people who were comedians, they went straight to heaven because they made other people laugh. So the Rebbe said, they didn't go and get a great place after they passed away to go to a special place because they knew how to study Torah, or because hi Sarah and hi Yisrael, it's good to see you over here, thank you. If you're quarantined, by the way, don't come near me. So it's not, so the Rebbe said, look, you don't go and get a great place because you knew how to study Torah, because you did mitzvot. No, it's because you made other people laugh. Again, such a beautiful thing. Here's somebody who, as you could potentially say, "Oh my, how can you like this person, such a negative person?" Yeah, no, you actually find the positive aspect of that guy. So I can go on endlessly. Another couple of quick stories. There was an author. I forgot his name, Harry something. I'll look it up later if you want to message me later. He came into a private audience with the Rebbe, and he said, "What do you?" Basically, the discussion was, "What do you say about the Jews who collaborated with the Nazis during the war?" And the Rebbe was a Holocaust survivor, lost his brother, his sister-in-law, his brother-in-law in the war. So it's a very touchy. Jews had to do whatever they did, and the Rebbe said, Rebbe bought a Talmud, basically how even a king and even a high priest, the most important person, they also think about themselves, which you have to be so careful about certain laws because they would think about themselves instead of thinking about others. So the Rebbe said it's exactly the same thing. Is we have no idea what it was like to live under the Nazi regime and to try and save you. How could they do it? And you could spend a lot of morals. How about we realize that, they did what they had to do in order just to simply save their lives. So I'm just going to finish off over here. We can always, look at something. Sometimes I see Alec over here watching live, and sometimes in business you always have competitors who want to go against you, and sometimes people do things that are just not fair. And there was such a case one time when the Rebbe started a a certain movement to help Jews who got involved with Christian cults, and another rabbi started competing with them, and broke away and took donors. And someone came to the Rebbe and complained, "How can this rabbi do that? It's not ethical." And the Rebbe told him, "Look, this guy was a Holocaust survivor. He was the head of a yeshiva before the Holocaust. He lost absolutely everything, everything, and." He was trying to rebuild. He needed donors. He needed to rebuild. He had no wife. He lost his wife, his kids, his students, everything. So how about we realize that he's not a competitor? He has a need. And if you look at everybody else that way, everybody has a need. Everybody, has a reason to what they're doing. So I promise it will only be 10 minutes. It's 10 minutes and 35 seconds. So I'm looking at a lot of people here: Sarah, Oren, Stevie, Samantha, all of you from around the world, and watching. And we're all in our own way, in our own place. And it's really a time to focus on the beautiful and positive things of every single person, because we get stuck with just watching news because we're desperate to know what's going on. Not always is the news going to report about the fact that certain businesses are giving away everything they had to help the homeless, or other businesses, or other people who are helping small businesses survive, whatever it may be. And we have to really look at the positive of every single person. This is a great time while we're sitting at home to really think about those who maybe, they're not the people we like most. Look at it from their perspective. Right? And what we call in Hebrew, it's limud sechut. Always try and find some kind of way to look at it in the right, and look at the other person with the right eye. So with that, that's the positivity bias for today. For anybody who needs a little bit of love and help, please reach out to your local rabbi. I can't promise you that I can always help you, but I could definitely be happy to talk to you. Or one of my kids will definitely be super happy. And with that, I will say shalom, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow, exactly the same time, 2 o'clock Colorado time, every single day for 10 minutes. It's actually 12 minutes of some positivity bias. L'chaim.